Good morning, Mr. Bennett. Thank you for joining me today for our interview. Thank you so much for being willing to commit your time. How are you today?
Excellent. Glad to be with you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, we're going to get started to honor our time. So here we go. So question number one, you recently created your business, Bennett Intelligent Solutions, to assist business to work smarter, not harder, so to speak. As an entrepreneur with extended knowledge of the business industry, what drove you to start BIS?
Well, I think we have a need today, especially among small to mid-sized businesses, to to utilize technology of the day, and that sometimes can be really difficult for small and medium-sized businesses to be able to either a have the in-house talent to really get into items such as um, you know utilizing artificial intelligence and so forth and so on to really grow the business. So I saw it as an opportunity to not only use HR but also to use my experience in analytics, predictive analytics, to offer small businesses that ability to compete.
That makes sense. So that kind of goes along with like what you just answered kind of question too when you're talking about trends in the market. And so that kind of helped you to predict the need for business models such as yours. Is that correct?
Absolutely, there's a huge need in being able to um, predict and understand what future needs are going to be. I constantly tell people if we're thinking about today, we're 5 years behind. So we need that intelligence available to us to help plan.
Excellent. So thinking about that and especially what you just said about if we're thinking about today, then we're already behind. How did you develop your business model and plan for the actual implementation of your plan to make it into a reality, a real viable business?
Well, I started out again. I've been in human resources 25 years, so I kind of use that as my way into um, business opportunities, and from there expand on what my offerings are to explain. Yeah, I can do the typical things that all HR consultants do, but in addition to that, um, we've got the opportunity to design algorithms to help your business see the future probably a lot better than what other smaller businesses do. You give us that insight and intelligence that maybe would provide for us a competitive advantage that other small businesses don't have.
Excellent. So saying that you would consider BIS to be a company that fits into one niche, or can you cater it to various clientele and their needs?
That's the key. You've got to be able to tailor. Um, I find myself more and more often going into speaking to clients to where they're asking for things that you know right away I have no idea how I would help them to do that, but I never give the answer no, because that's something we can figure out. So um, it's all about being flexible and understanding what an individual client's need is. And if that's not an expertise of mine, I go out and get that expertise.
Yeah, so it's all about fluidity. That seems to be
Mm-hmm.
the general thing or consensus that I'm realizing in this class and on business is that business in general, it has to have fluidity so that
And
it can.
they and customers want a one-stop shop. The more broad array of offerings you can provide, it makes it so much easier for them. They want to talk to one single person and get many things done. So that's what I try to provide.
Excellent. So when we talk about the evolution of the business industry, constant change and technological advancements and product inventions, internet businesses and influencers, how do you as an entrepreneur plan for possible changes in the market as it relates to your business? You just mentioned I go out and get that expertise, but thinking about predicting into the future, how are you kind of planning to model and craft your business to follow those changes?
You have to stay very involved in understanding of what the trends are. I do a lot of reading, a lot of research, and the majority of my research is in what's to come as opposed to what's happened. I want to know about what the latest and greatest ideas are, even if it's the craziest ideas you can think of. Those are the places where I spend my time trying to evaluate if that's a potential open door for me to offer. So um, I don't think about so much of what the big deal is today. I'm trying to always think about what the big thing is going to be tomorrow.
So that's interesting. So as you're reading and researching, what kind of trends are you seeing that may possibly be our future in business and companies and ideas?
Predictive analytics is definitely the future. We've got to get better at designing and building algorithms that's able to predict. And I, I I always see, you know, eyes start to light up when we start talking about, let's explore your data and explaining to customers that the historical data they have could possibly be a gold mine. It's so cheap now. To be able to house data, they keep data just droves and droves of data, and it's just sitting there.
Hmm.
And when you begin to explain that, we can go in and use that data to predict the future, it's things I like to hear.
I'm sure. So knowing, your planning and your fluidity, what are the biggest challenges you have faced as an entrepreneur, just starting out, in the business world as a sole proprietor? I know you have your human resource experiences, but this is your company. What have been your biggest challenges so far?
Well, time is difficult because obviously, this is still in its beginning stages. So, I have a normal full-time job too. So,
Hmm.
being able to do what's needed at my regular job, but still find time to do this. So what I've learned, I've brought on a couple of partners that help now, and even broaden our offerings through those partnerships. So time management is the biggest issue.
Yeah, I completely concur. Is even in my profession, going to school full time and working full time, there never seems to be enough time. I could have three of me, and it would still feel like it wasn't enough time. So, knowing our economic situation, in our country and the world right now, how do you feel external economic factors such as inflation, deflation, how does that affect your company as well as the businesses who seek your services?
Well, luckily for me, because my business is strictly service, um, I have very low overhead, so that keeps things easy for me. But it also allows for me to, you know, I do recognize that you know companies don't have a lot of money to spend in these, especially in just seeing if these things would be helpful to them. They don't have a lot of money to do that. So being able that I'm very able to stay very low overhead, I'm able to offer rates that are very, very competitive. And and it gives them the ability to say, hey, it's worth that amount of money to
Hmm.
explore these areas, even if we don't end up going with it or not. It's still a real economical risk to take.
Yeah. So then you think kind of the economic situation, it hasn't necessarily prevented companies from seeking your services. They still are at least curious as to what,
They,
and yeah, you can
they,
provide.
they are definitely curious, but it comes down to we have to be able to really show that financial benefit
Hmm.
in the service. They want to always see the return on the investment. what's in this for us, and we've got to be able to paint a picture that's going to show really positive result.
Mm-hmm. So now that you've kind of been in business for, are you approaching your year anniversary?
Just over a year.
Just over a year. So have you found that you've had to tweak your original plan for your model of your company to better fit, or are you still kind of on your same original vision?
I think we've changed from the standpoint of as broad of broadening. I think when we originally started out, we were really focused in a couple of areas where we've seen that we've had to really, you know, broaden the areas and make our offerings. Um, again, going back to really being that one-stop shop, we've had to open it up to to be able to provide what we thought we were going to be providing, but also growing and being able to offer any assortment of of potential ways of supporting their business.
That sounds exciting though. It's almost like you've had growth. I mean, you've had a growth mindset change too, in terms of, what you thought you'd be doing and now taking on this whole other realm of services.
Well, you've got to go in the direction of the business. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Meeting with a client yesterday, and he's got some big networking challenges. He's, what can you do for me there? I have no idea what I can do for him, but I guarantee you I can figure it out.
Yes.
So that's really the mindset you got to have. That I don't know the answer today, uh, but I'm going to present a confidence to the customer that I can figure out options for.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's certainly, no, in a situation like that where you may not have the answer, but you're still trying to keep your confidence, how do you, how do you allow the client to see your authenticity in that this is something that maybe isn't my strongest wheelhouse, but I will find the answer. So there's no sense, the client doesn't feel like they're being hoodwinked, so to speak.
Well, again, I think just building relationships is extremely important, and I build that relationship really on in the areas that that I know best. That's generally where the discussions start.
Mm-hmm.
And when they see results in those areas, then they're willing to take bigger chances.
Definitely. So, knowing that you have this economic and human resources background, clearly business and economics is a field that interests you and that you're very passionate about. So, do you have an economist or a businessman or other well-known theorist that's kind of influenced your philosophy about business and economics?
I kind of think, as strange as it may sound, I kind of see myself as a mixture between a Franklin Covey and even Elon Musk. I really think the success of any business starts with strong leadership, and that's certainly the Covey background.
Mm-hmm.
But the never-ending, quest for that real entrepreneurial spirit, which and Elon Musk would have. That there's just no ending to where we can go.
Yeah, so it sounds like that's definitely, especially that economic, spirit has definitely, I see where you have embraced that. So, that's an admirable quality, and some people don't have that. They're too fearful to step out. So, um, that's definitely a good thing to have.
I have always been somebody that I don't like to get bored, and I get bored very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like walking that edge. I'm not afraid of risk. I'm not afraid to take risk. So while a lot of people would look at some things that we dive into as just being absolutely ridiculous, I don't see that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think in 5 years I'll get the last laugh on.
I'm sure you will. So when you mentioned the Covey style of leadership, how would you describe yourself as a leader? What kind of leader are you?
Um, you know, the whole mindset behind being servant leader is crucial.
Hmm.
We've got to, as leaders, we've really got to find ways to help people um, realize, their dreams. When I think of the people that work for me, I'm always looking for ways to find a way to be successful.
Hmm.
Um, I definitely embrace their entrepreneurial mindset. You've got to be really open to new ideas and understand that they're going to make mistakes, and you got to
Hmm.
allow them to make mistakes because that's how we grow. I think my folks would probably say that I give them that total freedom.
That's wonderful. So finally, what advice would you give anyone who is considering traveling on an entrepreneurial path?
It's a lot of work, and you're going to probably uh, fail a lot more times than you're going to see, especially beginning.
Hmm.
Um, but it's the ones that truly have that drive, and those are the ones that's going to be successful. You've got to really love what you do, which means you got to love it on the bad days,
Hmm.
and I think that stops a lot of folks. I mean, just that they just get tired, they get discouraged, and so you've got to love it to the point where you can look past that and see that you know the future's there. You just got to work.
Hmm.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So it kind of goes along with that saying that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
It feels like work. There's plenty of days that feel like work, but you've got to love it enough that you wake up the next day excited and ready to go again.
Well, thank you so much for spending your time with me this morning. You've given me a lot of interesting insight on just what it's like for a small business entrepreneur to get started and to have a vision and to see it through and how to change through the economic downturns and upturns. So again, I appreciate your time with me this morning, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. All right. Um,